Hello, everyone, and welcome to Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast in all of the internet. My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is Patrick Nisley.
And my name is David Howe.
And it's us.
It's us.
It's all three of the Super Switch Heads here with you.
We're here.
In this episode, we are focusing all about what Nintendo will be doing in 2021. Speculation-heavy episode.
Yes.
We're going to try to predict some stuff, especially with so many anniversaries this year. 35th of Zelda, 25th of Pokemon, 35th of Metroid, 40th of Donkey Kong. It's crazy.
Each one of them is getting a full 9 months of Levi's.
And everyone's getting Legos too.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting Legos. Everyone's getting games.
Oreos.
Yeah.
Dude, I cannot wait for Metroid Oreos.
It's all mother brain themed.
Yeah.
Also,
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, in the news, we'll be discussing the recent Nintendo purchase of Next Level Games, some Breath of the Wild news, some of the NPCs based on the Mii formats, and some direct rumors that kind of leaked within the past probably couple of hours. We'll dig into those too.
It's new year, new direct rumors.
That's right, baby. If you're wondering why Matthew Stoner's voice is so low, it's because I cut my throat while eating.
Yeah, dude, you're a trooper for doing a entertainment format where you talk a bunch.
Yeah, I know. That's my commitment to you, Switch Heads listening, wherever you're at.
Thank you.
Well,
Matt.
yeah. Petition to keep Matt's voice like this. That's what I'm signing. How was y'all's New Year's?
That's right. New Year's.
I mean, we talked about it beforehand, but for the audience. Yeah.
I'll get into this later. I played Last of Us over the last, 5 or 6 days. And so my mind is not in a good place after playing that. It's not a good game you should start the new year on.
Right.
But I loved it. Long story short.
Yeah.
And so
I also played a lot of games too. So I'm excited to talk about the games we've been playing section.
Hell yeah.
I feel like you were right, Patrick. A couple weeks ago, you were like, around this time of year, you always play a shit ton of games. So I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, New Year's was fine, but there's also that, and this is, not true for everybody, but that sense of like kind of going back to work after holidays too, which is kind of often a little depressing.
It's super hard. Yeah.
Or hard to transition sometimes.
Buzzkill Avenue.
Yeah. But I like New Year's because I kind of like looking forward. I think it's sort of a clean slate, and I always like to make new goals and plans and stuff like that. So I'm happy.
Totally.
I'm happy.
Yeah. That's what this episode's all about, baby.
Yep.
New goal, finish Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
That was my goal last year. I didn't meet it, but I'm going to beat it this year.
You did a lot.
So before we get into news and stuff, we have some shout outs. Our last episode was about the best of 2020, the Golden Heads. A couple of people on our Discord made some fun comments. Segovia brought up the NES should have won an award. Thanks, Robert Segovia. Andrew Musil says that maybe Matt should try Fire Emblem Three Houses. That's a good suggestion. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, great suggestion.
I can't believe you haven't played that yet, man. That's crazy.
It's 2021.
DCD said that Dr. Dolphin was snubbed from that award of the best Dr. Mario World character.
It was a close one.
It's tough.
It was tough.
And
tough competition.
You love to see a dolphin with an MD.
Similarly, Kyle brought up the Nintendo Ninjas being what they thought was the worst worst Nintendo news of the year, which was a pretty bad one too.
I do want to quickly give a shout out to the Pokemon DLC, which I completely neglected to include in the best DLC of the year discussion, opting instead to put Zen Pinball DLC in its place. So I apologize to all Pokemon fan listeners we have of the show.
Yeah, that might have even been a good one to possibly win. According
Zen,
to
where's my Pokemon Pinball DLC?
Sorry to the Pokemon fans, but you're welcome to the Zen Pinball fans.
All one of me.
And I got a Facebook message from Chris McKeever who agreed with me that the Disney Tsum Tsum Golden Head should have gone to curling, 100%. So thanks, Chris.
I'm not gonna get into a big debate at the top of the show about this.
And
we'd be here all night.
Lastly, Derek Kopswa likes giggly drunk David. That's right. Last episode you were giggly drunk, David.
That's true. I've already had less drinks tonight's episode than I did last time. But yes, thank you very much. I'm glad. I think I'm blessed with being a non-angry drunk, and that has served me well in life so far. So I appreciate that, Derek. I wasn't that drunk.
No. Moving on to news and rumors. Y'all ready to talk about what's going on this week?
Let's do it.
AGDQ is happening right now. Awesome games done quick. We've got a whole episode about games done quick, but it is a speedrunning event where all the donations and proceeds go to charity. So that's a very cool thing. And there's lots of cool runs. David, you reminded us to watch it in the Discord right around where there's a bunch of Sonic runs, including a Sonic Mania one that I watched a bit of that was quite enjoyable.
Yeah, there was a legendary string of Sonic runs, and it was like 4 in a row of really great runs. The first 2, it was like Sonic on Android, which the runner got the world record for that live at the event. And then the next one was Sonic Air or AIR, which is like a PC port of Sonic 3. And that guy got the world record as well, followed by one of the most entertaining commentators I'd ever seen. And then just a great display of one of the most broken games of all time in Sonic 06. So yeah, definitely check it out. They're all on YouTube right now. And it's a great show so far.
And that's happening through this Sunday, January 9th. You can check that out. If you've been interested in checking out Crash Team Racing, they put that up on NSO as the current free trial for the week. You don't have a whole lot of time left. I don't think it's ending. May actually just be ending today. I know that I realized that
it'll be over by the time.
So which is a bummer because it happened like between episodes. So this one was maybe not even a full week, but it's close to it. And the game's on sale, I guess, still for a while longer. So hopefully you were paying attention to news elsewhere if you wanted to check that out.
Crash for Smash confirmed.
Yeah. Breath of the Wild, you talked about this when we were talking about the news items. This is really interesting. Some data miner was playing around with the NPCs in Breath of the Wild and discovered that they're based on like the same format of the Miis. So you can like input a Mii and create a custom NPC in Breath of the Wild, which is really funny because they put in as example a bunch of like the Barrett from Final Fantasy and some other ones, and you get these like Hylians that they're called Hylians, right?
Hylians maybe?
That look like these Miis. It's really funny, which makes you wonder if that was like maybe some scrapped, like they intended that, like you could maybe, because when it was originally for the Wii U, maybe you could create your own NPC, or maybe it was just double use, like, hey, we already have this great, tool to design facial features. What if we could use that and then import it? I don't know, like
I'm leaning more towards that. Yeah. I think because I've kind of always been amazed at Mii's because it's like all the characters are so simple and you can immediately tell it's a Mii when you see it. But you can very clearly recreate faces with Mii's, you know what I mean? So I think it's just like a robust character engine, tool, I guess, they have, or categorization options for different facial features. It's just like a good way to do it. And it's cool to see it be reused in that way. And I want to hack myself into Breath of the Wild right now because my Mii looks exactly like me. And it would be very nice to see myself in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. So amazing that things are still being discovered about that game. I mean, it's not that old of a game, but it's cool to see stuff like this. Next Level Games. Matt, you also mentioned this is now a wholly owned Nintendo subsidiary. I don't know if Nintendo owned any % of it prior to this, but they've been mostly doing Nintendo games recently. Next Level is based out of Vancouver, Canada. So it's another North American, the only other North American other than Retro. Is that?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a small club, if not the only two. Yeah.
So they've made a bunch of Nintendo games, including most recently Luigi's Mansion 3, and now they are 100% owned by Nintendo. Any thoughts about this? I think on Facebook somebody posed the question, what does this mean? And there was some interesting discussion happening on our Switch Headz Facebook group.
I think Lee posted that originally. I think this is less about a new Mario Strikers and more about Nintendo's commitment to making more games for the Switch. Just like, in Breath of the Wild, they did like Monolith Soft supported the release of that software.
Gotcha.
Totally.
They can take Next Level and put them on something else kind of a thing, or
have them work on, if it's a new Strikers or a new Luigi's Mansion, they can also at the same time work on other franchises and not just the contracts that they have.
Yeah, like for instance, the animation in Luigi's Mansion was amazing. So, if they're working on animation later in a project, like say earlier in the project, they're designing the actual, I'm not one to talk about exactly how game dev works, right. But like, I doubt you need animators for every single point of a project entirely. They could probably, put some of them on a different project or give them some help in that way. I think it's a really good call, Matt. I think we'll probably see some like new hires there now that there's a little bit more like stability where they just know they've got, years ahead of them of making games, unless for some reason their next game totally bombs. Maybe Nintendo will just be like, oops. But either way, it's good. I don't think it's any like earth shattering news, but it's nice to hear. And it's, like you said, Patrick, it's nice to have another North American studio, some more like Western developers under Nintendo's banner.
Anything else there? It's just kind of interesting, but moving on.
Yeah. Random announcement.
Just to confirm, it looks like Next Level and Retro Studios are the only North American Nintendo companies or development houses.
Very small club.
Yeah. There was some Kirby news teased sort of by Hal in an interview with some of the developers over at Hal. I think it's a Japanese publication. They talked about how they're working hard for 2021 to get as many people to enjoy Kirby games and a bunch of other Kirby merchandise and stuff that they've got planned for. We talked about, I think, that Kirby Cafe thing they did, or they're probably doing more of that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some Kirby games. I mean, they kind of crank those out anyways, but it's been a little while since the what was it, Star Allies. So maybe there'll be a mainline Kirby game soon.
Yeah, Fighters 2 was the last one, I guess.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago, so maybe there won't be.
There's always a Kirby something every year, but they've been really talking up 2021 as like, be on the lookout, like it's going to be crazy. So hope we see, like a 3D game or something.
Hollow Knight Silk Song was featured in Edge magazine. So I actually picked this up because I'm really excited about Silk Song. I read through the feature. It's a nice feature. There's no info about dates or anything. So nothing there, but lots of cool little details. They also did a good job of not giving away too much information. Sort of some of the big takeaways were kind of why they split it off into its own game is that they were originally kind of thinking about maybe, putting Hornet as like just a swap. You could play some as Hornet, but the more they did it, the more they realized the scope of the scale of Hornet being taller and kind of the platforming and combat, they wanted to design a whole new world around it, and that changed a lot of things. It sounds like it's going to be really cool. I'm really looking forward to this. But the fact that it was,
did you get the physical issue of this?
No,
magazine?
I just bought the digital one, which because as I mentioned pre-show, I'm trying to quarantine really hard right now.
It's also very green of you.
I guess. I kind of wanted the physical one, but it was just easier to. But there's also like the PR for Team Cherry, the guy in charge of that, made some comment in the Discord that people were talking about, saying about how you could say that they've finished all the content in the game or in final testing, which doesn't surprise me based on they probably wouldn't want to do this big magazine cover article if it wasn't coming relatively soon. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get this game in 2021 too. I hope so, but also whenever. Former F-Zero producer in an interview with Red Bull France, I guess, apparently.
They get all the gaming hot scoops.
Toshihiro Nagoshi is a executive director on a lot of the Yakuza games. I guess used to do some work on F-Zero. Said that he would be open to or interested in working on an F-Zero project again. Probably not going to happen, but and would want it to be challenging, which makes sense. I think because the idea being that Mario Kart's the sort of friendly racing game for Nintendo. F-Zero is the gamer racing game, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally. I mean, it's at least like F-Zero GX was hard as shit. Like F-Zero X for the N64 was more difficult than Mario Kart, or at least more technical, and faster for sure. But F-Zero GX was actually like really hard to race that fast, and you had to get really good at the game. So I would hope that if it comes out, it's harder than Mario Kart. I mean, the Mario Kart, like F-Zero stages are hard in Mario Kart. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's always kind of been what sets it apart from the others. But I'm just happy to hear somebody talking about F-Zero at all.
Right.
Definitely Nagoshi, he is the, before they were totally folded into Sega, he was the head of Amusement Vision, who, they made F-Zero GX and F-Zero AX, the GameCube and arcade versions, but then they also did the Super Monkey Ball games. So that's why we haven't seen any good Monkey Ball games, because this guy's been doing the Yakuza games now for a while, So if he says that he's interested in going back to that, which he hasn't even shown any interest in going back to Monkey Ball, but here he's like, I'd love to do another F-Zero. Like, that fills me with hope for the franchise. So I hope we see something. I'm not going to hold my breath, of course, but it's just nice to hear it spoken.
Right. I mean, a lot of the news this week, and partly why we've picked some of these stories, is a lot of this is sort of, maybe this is stuff we could hope for in 2021. I don't know that we can hope for an F-Zero game. I mean, we can hope. But
I'm not hoping for an F-Zero game in 2021.
I'm hoping. I'm not expecting.
Yeah.
And this is breaking news to me. I did not know about this one, but some games have been delisted on the 3DS. Some DSiWare games, right? Like a lot.
It was a couple days ago or a day ago at this point, but essentially on the DSi, old Nintendo Wi-Fi service has been long since shut down, like the one that the DS and the DSi used. But there were a whole bunch of backwards compatible DSiWare games that were for this DSi specific store or online store that were available through the 3DS eShop. And a couple days ago, like over 250 of the games were just taken off of the eShop completely without any warning. It seems like every game from before May 2011 is no longer available. That includes like the DSi port of like Shantae, Risky's Revenge, and a couple other like DSi specific like Nintendo published games you could just no longer grab. I think apparently some of this is still available in Europe and in Japan. So a lot of people are kind of speculating that this might have been some sort of error. But either way, it's kind of, not to editorialize too hard on it, but it's like, this is a very important reason for game preservation. You know what I mean? And, even if this was a mistake, usually Nintendo's like, hey, heads up, we're about to remove everything. If you only ever had a DSi, then everything from your childhood. But I don't think anybody just had a DSi. But maybe, I don't know. I'm speaking out of turn. But it's just kind of like hey, if you have games you remember fondly, maybe make sure they're downloaded and easily accessible.
Yeah, and with the Tropical Freeze and Pikmin being removed when they come to Switch, maybe this means they're going to add some of these games to the Switch or something. Who knows? They're not going to give us 250 games.
They're saving it for the dual screen Switch Pro that's coming out next March. Yeah.
Glad 2021's off to a good start. We're already talking about this Switch Pro, baby.
We're not even in the main topic yet.
I know. I love it. To 2021, Matthew Stoner loves Switch Pro talk.
Leading us into the main topic, too, there's been a lot of likely fake leaks and rumors going on about directs and a couple of alleged Nintendo leakers that I don't really know much about, that I've heard of, but I don't have any reason to believe them. But we're going to share them because, hey, maybe this will lead us into our topic pretty well. There's a individual on Twitter named PH Brazil that said happy 2021. Well, they said it in Portuguese, with pictures of Breath of the Wild 2, an Inkling, Samus, Fire Emblem, and Pokemon. So maybe that's nothing. Another alleged leaker, Marco Maro on Twitter, has been talking a lot about Donkey Kong Country and how they've somebody who's not retro internally at Nintendo has been making a new Donkey Kong Country game that we can expect soon.
That's Hot Girl Video 69 has been saying that a lot.
Yeah, they've been saying it too. And then there's been all these likely fake Nintendo Direct leaks, like one that has software misspelled in it. So I don't think it's very, very true. Another one that looked a little bit cleaner, but also probably not true. But who knows? Super Mario Odyssey 2 is on both of those. I think there's one of them is just totally not believable. I don't even want to list everything that's on it. The other one seemed maybe more legit.
Was that the one that I posted in the Discord?
The one you posted seems a little more potentially legit.
Yeah, that one kind of has like header data and stuff like that, and it's just like a ton of random erroneous like stuff that usually only a computer sees. I don't know if that makes sense, but it like makes me almost believe it a little bit more. But that one had stuff about like what it was like Mario Galaxy 2 coming, Mario 35 extension,
Fall Guys.
So that was all things that I like. So I'm privy to believe that one. But yeah, so we're starting to run amok with stuff.
And I don't really understand this stuff either, but there's apparently like some sort of direct archive online that people say you can, send a query or something into and see the last update, and people do that. And then usually it shows that there's been a recent update before a direct, and they're saying that that's happening now too. I don't understand exactly the details of that. If somebody else does and you want to explain it better, you can. But Nintendo Direct rumors are going around right now.
I'd like to just flash us back to last year. I think it was last year. Fuck, maybe it was 2019. But last year in January, where everybody was like, well, just counting the days until a January Direct. And it wasn't until like late March that we got something. Like, this is all the same shit we were buzzing about that entire month.
Yep.
I'm seeing everybody on YouTube being like, Direct rumors, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, if one YouTuber makes a video about Direct rumors, then every YouTuber makes a video about Direct rumors. So take it all with a grain of salt, but sure would be nice to have a real ass Direct again.
And sure, it was fun to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is there another rumor going on about rare games for the N64? I don't know about that.
Oh, that was something that happened last week, and I don't think we talked about on the show. But just to kind of add to the speculation about games that could be revealed in a Direct, I think the Wii U had I think it was Jet Force Gemini and Banjo-Tooie.
Oh, that's right.
Added to its database or something like that.
I saw that too.
And which is bizarre because it's the Wii U, and why would anybody do that? But also just, it's like rare stuff. So people were like, does this mean rare replays coming? And who knows, maybe. But it's, so just more stuff that could potentially be in a Direct if we got one.
Gotcha. Well, whether or not we get Directs at all in 2021, who knows? We're going to speculate all about that and what we might see and what we know we'll see this new year after the break. We'll be back to talk all about it. So it's 2021. It's a new year, and that means this episode is where we're going to talk all about what Nintendo's going to do in 2021. We'll talk about what they have announced already and what we know is coming a little bit, or what we know is coming in the future and what might come this year. And we'll speculate on what else we might see, maybe give some personal predictions, maybe some personal hopes, maybe some other thoughts about this year and gaming. Does that cover it for y'all? Is that what we're doing?
I think so. Mainly Nintendo's 2021, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think maybe at the end we can kind of discuss some gaming at large stuff, but we'll mainly be focusing on what we think Nintendo's got up their sleeve, which is by far the hardest company to predict.
Yeah, and then I think this is also like a big caveat too, right? Like, everybody, we were kind of talking about this. Everybody's like, 2021's got to be better. Well, right now the pandemic's worse than it's ever been, at least in the United States. I know in other parts of the world it's better, but everywhere it's not super great.
Only in New Zealand is it better.
Yeah. And the vaccines are rolling out in certain places and to certain people and all that. But I don't think it's really hard to predict right now because things are not predictable right now.
Right.
So we'll do our best to have fun talking about video games in light of all that. Man, that got weird.
Well, hey, 2020 was also a great year for gaming.
Yeah.
Still, regardless of all that. So I think we'll see some good stuff. And I think at the very least, we will see a couple, whether or not they tell us this, I think we will be seeing some projects that were pushed out of release from 2020 at the very least. So I think Nintendo's going to have a good, solid year.
So we'll talk about what we know is coming first and what's been announced with specific dates or specifically for 2021. And this, like we said, we're focused on Nintendo. And so we're going to really just talk about exclusives, first party stuff. So the dated stuff that we know about is Bravely Default 2, which is coming February 26th. And I have this slightly out of order. I meant to switch that. Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury is coming out February 12th. So those are some of the ones that we don't have to wait too long, just another month and a half or so for those pretty big games, pretty big exclusives. And then there's the Story of Seasons game that I believe is a Switch exclusive coming out March 23rd. The Monster Hunter Rise, which is, again, at least timed Switch exclusive. We don't know. Isn't that what the Capcom leak showed, that it might come to other consoles a year later or something?
I don't think they ever said it's only ever coming to Switch. It's just kind of made for Switch. You know what I mean? It's not Monster Hunter World. It's Monster Hunter Rise. Yeah.
And similarly, the Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin is also a Switch exclusive, at least for a while. Summer 2021. That's where we're getting into the non-dated things. And then we can expect Shin Megami Tensei 5 and No More Heroes 3 sometime in 2021, assuming there are no more delays and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't guarantee No More Heroes 3. For some reason, I'm getting Bayonetta 3 vibes, and they're like, we'll release it in 2020. And then it's like 2023, and they're like, oh, here it is.
Yeah. And I guess we could talk about the things that has been announced by Nintendo, unless y'all want to, that we don't have, know for sure is coming 2021. Since you said it, Bayonetta 3, right?
Yeah.
Bayonetta
Where
3,
the fuck is that game, y'all?
It's been a while.
Yeah. Do you think that game is... I mean, they've said they're still working on it.
Yeah, and even pretty recently, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance that game will come out this year.
It should. It better.
Yeah.
Almost, I should really say.
Another game I think has a really good chance coming out this year is new Pokemon Snap.
Yes.
Because when they announced that, when was that? Was that like September or something? Or maybe even earlier than that? It was sometime in the second half of 2020.
Did any Switch Pokemon games other than the DLC for Sword and Shield come out last year? No, right?
What about that one mobile game?
Yeah, if not for the Switch, though.
The MOBA.
Oh, I don't think that's even come out yet, has it?
Right.
If it has, it's been so under the radar that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But,
Pokemon Unite.
like, I'm talking about like Switch exclusive games, right?
I see. Okay.
So it's like, I think that the new Pokemon Snap game that's coming out feels like a prime game candidate for a game that was supposed to come out last year and fill that Pokemon hole that there was no like cartridge released. There's no Switch cartridge of a Pokemon game released last year, which is very odd for Nintendo. So I feel like they're just going to rope it all into the 25th anniversary of Pokemon this year. That'll definitely be a 2021 game.
And then less likely to see in 2021, though possible, Breath of the Wild sequel, and least likely to see in 2021, Metroid Prime 4. And I think that covers with what games we know were coming. Anybody want to make any guesses or predictions about any of those? What are those you think we'll see?
Just one more. Like back in May of 2019, we got, a Pokemon Direct that said there was a new Detective Pikachu coming.
Right.
That's right.
But we don't know when, but I would assume they'd come out around whenever the sequel to the movie is.
That's right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, I'm thinking it's been in development for so long, maybe they were holding it for this 25th anniversary this year. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
Because I do think we're going to get a lot of Pokemon this year. They were hyping it up at the Macy's parade.
Yeah.
We saw the numbers on his cheeks. Okay.
And we'll get into this anniversary business in a minute.
Sure, I keep alluding to bits.
Well, no, but I mean, let's talk about it. But like,
I also just love using Macy's Day Parade as a gauge for what
it's
big
huge.
companies will
It's
do.
huge.
I'm waiting for Nintendo exclusive Boss Baby game that's coming out next year, and the Nintendo exclusive Dwayne the Rock Johnson with a fanny pack game that's coming out next year. I'm looking forward to all that.
Well, maybe before we talk about it, anniversaries, then do you guys have any feelings about? I mean, we kind of talked about Bayonetta 3 and new Pokemon Snap, about the Detective Pikachu or the Breath of the Wild sequel or Metroid Prime 4. Do you think there's any chance we see either just advertisements for them or more or release dates or or
I think
actually
it
see
would
those
be
games?
pretty nigh impossible that we don't get at least a release window for Breath of the Wild 2 this year.
Like, you mean it could be for 2022, but we hear about it.
I would say if I'm a betting man right now, I would not bet on. That's a bet I would walk away from. Is betting on if
David, you bet every episode.
Yeah, I know. I'm not touching this one, whether or not it's coming out this year or next year, because I think they intended for the game to come out 2020 originally. Now, I think right now they're like, all right, we're going to just get it out holiday 2021, right?
Yeah.
And I think they're fully intending on that. But Breath of the Wild was delayed like 6 times. You know what I mean? Like intended to release that game 3 years before it eventually released. You know, it was shown off way ahead of time.
They intended Mies to be a big part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
as we learned today.
Yeah. So it's like I'm not going to touch that one. I'm not going to put money on. I'm not going to eat any of my consoles over whether or not Breath of the Wild comes out this year. But I think that it's got a very good chance, you know, at least 50% of coming out this year. You know, it would definitely make for it's the fucking, to keep going back to these anniversaries. It's the Zelda 35th anniversary. You know what I mean? And Nintendo does a lot of stuff for Zelda that they don't do for Mario. So I think it'd be pretty foolish for them not to do it, to ride in on that, year-long celebration. Bayonetta 3, we better see it. Like I said, new Detective Pikachu, I'm not convinced that's a real thing.
Yeah, that's the whole way that was mentioned and that there's been no talk about it. It's so weird.
Very weird. Do you think just they're trying to get Ryan Reynolds? And that's why it's taking a long time, because the schedule is full?
Yeah, probably. That's it.
Yeah, well, I think it's they want Ryan Reynolds to do every language for the localizations. So it's just a lot of recording hours.
Beer out of my nose. Yeah, that would be hilarious. I really want to hear Ryan Reynolds be Pikachu in Chinese, in Cantonese or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Metroid Prime is not coming out this year. I think we can pretty safely say, if it comes out this year, I will eat something if Metroid Prime 3 comes out.
What are you
going to
eat? Which console?
I will eat my medical bills, which are in front of me, which I still haven't paid. They're right behind my keyboard, so I'll look at them every day. And if Metroid Prime 4 comes out this year, I'll just eat the stack of medical bills.
Do you think we'll see anything on Metroid Prime 4 before we move on from this? Do you think that there's a chance that at the end of the year they're going to want to give us another little tease or something?
What do you think, Matt?
I hope we get something. I don't know. I really don't think we'll hear anything. At very minimum, we might get some merch.
Yeah. Well, I think that before we can answer that question, I think that maybe we should pose another question, which is, what are like a game announcements going to look like this year?
Yeah, I think it's great. We should talk about that.
Because Metroid Prime 4, like if we knew for sure there was going to be an E3 this year, then I think for sure they've got to have enough showable of Metroid Prime 4 to show more than at least a ping of the title card, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think that, yeah, it kind of depends. It's like, I mean, Nintendo is lucky that they have their own distribution method to begin with, but it's like, I don't think that they have to show games more than a few months before they come out.
I don't think they want to right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you guys think? Do you think E3 is going to happen this year, digital or otherwise?
I hope so. I hope they do a digital. I don't think that there's going to be a physical event. I don't think
There's supposed to be a physical Oscars still.
I don't think based on, wow.
Yeah.
I don't think based on the way things are going in the United States, that we're going to be having major gatherings until, fall.
I would be surprised if there's no digital E3, especially that, whatever the ESA group is, they've had a year to plan it and figure out the logistics of planning a digital version of that.
Yeah.
I would be very surprised if there wasn't E3 in some form. It doesn't have to be a week long. It can be one day.
I think that's a good point.
Or 2 days.
I think
it's like the month before June. And they're like, "Oh, we just haven't had time.
we thought it.
We were totally caught off guard by COVID a year and a half after it came out."
We joke about that, but I do feel like there are people that are like, "Hey, 2021 June, we can do a physical event." And then as things get closer and closer, they might fucking have that exact moment of like, "Whoa, we just thought we were going to be able to." But I mean,
if they start planning today, they should be able to have.
They
it ready.
Should be able to. And
I'm
with
6 months of prep, like you could get a digital event. I organized a fucking Zoom show in like a couple hours, like a couple weeks ago. So it's not that hard. ESA, come on,
listen, ESA, if you're listening right now, us three white guys can launch your digital platform for the Electronic Entertainment Expo. Just give us a price.
We are the face of 2021.
Well, I think, Matt, what you were saying though makes sense, which is like they will do something and call it E3 digitally, if not in person.
I just hope we don't get the summer game mess or whatever that we had of 2020. 100%. Like that was like cool and everybody was trying to do their own thing in the absence of E3, but hopefully we get something that's a lot more locked in, a lot more at the same time, easier to follow. Anyway, so that's kind of what I would say. I think that if there is an E3 this year or some sort of centralized news output for gaming over the summer, I think that we'll see Metroid Prime 4 there. And I'll go one further. I think that if Metroid Prime 4 does get footage shown this year, I think that's when they'll release Metroid Prime Trilogy. Okay. Yeah.
Well, before we get into game specific stuff too, can we talk about directs? Because I think it's the same sort of question of like, we heard these direct rumors, but I think they're all bullshit because I don't know that Nintendo wants to do a direct. For the same reasons they didn't really want to do one in 2020, which you just mentioned. And I think it's even before COVID, this whole Metroid Prime 4 debacle thing. It's not a debacle, but like, I don't think they want to announce.
It's just a really big debacle.
I don't think they want to announce things anymore too far.
COVID is the biggest debacle of all time.
It's quite the
debacle in the dictionary.
It's like a COVID-19 cell with a curly mustache, like getting out of an argument. I don't know.
Anyway, I think that I'm not convinced that we're gonna have full big directs ever again. Anyway, because I think that they can get more eyes on a specific title when they do it. Maybe we'll get partner directs again. Maybe we'll get mini directs. I don't know. What do y'all think?
I think we'll get something before March, before the end of the fiscal year. That could be a partner showcase. That could be if it's a Zelda focused direct. I think we'll get something in some capacity.
Yeah.
Before the end of the fiscal year, which is end of March.
It's tough.
Patrick, where's your optimism? Where's your holiday spirit?
Well, I think, when we did this,
there's got to be we got to have, if nothing is keeping us alive, it's the hope that Nintendo will one day do
a direct,
full direct. I'm just kidding. I live for more than that. I promise.
Yeah, but I am hopeful that they'll do one. I'm just not sure that. I think what it is that like when we did this episode last year, at the beginning of 2020. I felt like I could make some predictions. You know what I mean? And
I hear you.
Right now, I feel like everything, even then I knew that those predictions weren't likely to come true, but it felt like you could look at patterns and you could think about things. But right now, just with COVID, it just feels like I don't know what they're going to do.
Totally. All bets are still off in 2021.
In such a major way.
That having been said, Nintendo has a lot to announce. And in fact, and before we get into whatever, I do think that there will be a January game. We had on this list a bunch of games, and the earliest date is February 12th. I think we will get a game from Nintendo in January, and whether that's on a Twitter, kind of release or whatever, that would be a great time to release Mario Galaxy 2. It's what I'm saying. Some DLC for or as a single game, like something like that. But so I think we're going to get some sort of announcement. I do think that this year Nintendo, this is like we were saying about E3. Nintendo probably had plans for full directs that they just tore apart and parceled out into other announcements. I think that they've now had enough time to like really lock in release schedules that they haven't told anybody yet that they're going to reveal in a full direct. I think we'll get one this year. Whether or not it's in January, I don't know, but I think we'll get one this year for sure.
With you saying that, and with Matt saying, they'll do something before, the end of the fiscal year. I'm not sure that there's going to be a January game. I think that the next big Nintendo game is this Super Mario 3D World game, and I don't know that they're going to announce anything, at least major. Maybe there's this, like you said, a DLC or a smaller title or something. And I don't know that they want to do a big direct or something before that game. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Or Levi's are coming.
Everybody thinks the Zelda stuff is big too, right? Because it's the 35th anniversary of Zelda.
Yeah, let's go into that maybe.
Which you were talking about too. Maybe there'd be a Zelda direct or something like that. I also similarly feel like I don't think they're gonna try to take too many eyes away from Super Mario 3D World. Maybe I'm wrong. Because wouldn't February be Zelda's 35th anniversary technically? If you were going to a month, which they kind of did with the Mario stuff being in September.
I don't know. I don't think that matters quite as much. I think that, Matt, you were onto something where you're talking about Nintendo's fiscal year. Like, Nintendo's fiscal year is up in March. They've got them to Nintendo. The 35th anniversary of Nintendo is being celebrated up until March 31st, right? That's where they're calling it. So, like, I don't think that they're going to show us any big any big Legend of Zelda themed directs or any Zelda 35th anniversary stuff until after March. I think we can safely say. I don't think it's going to be like April 1st. They show a bunch of stuff, but I think it'll be soon after. You know what I mean? And they'll kind of highlight what their plans for the year. But yeah. Anyway, that's where I stand on the Zelda stuff. But
there's no reason to believe there's a Zelda 35th anniversary outside of those trademarks that we talked about a while back. Everybody's just kind of jumped on this idea because they did the Mario 35th anniversary and because it had the trademarks, right? So this is true. This is pretty just huge speculation that I think people might be setting themselves up for failure here because I'm not saying it's not happening, but I don't think there's any. We don't have the same sort of 35th Mario anniversary 3D All-Star rumors that we had. We just have a lot of people willing it into existence.
That's true. I think they definitely were. We knew about Mario 3D All-Stars like well before they ever said anything about it. It was like 4 months before or something like that, right? It was like right when it started development that we heard about it.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, like May of 2020.
So I hope that
you have to imagine whatever hole was in the ship they patched. You know what I mean? That led to that getting out anyway, right?
I hope that there's a 35th Zelda. I think it makes sense because Zelda's as big as Mario in a lot of ways, and they like to do anniversaries with Zelda, and they like to sell us and resell us Zelda games. So I think it's possible. I just want to put those.
What games do you think would be in this?
Collection? Yeah, if they do a collection.
Let's assume that there will be one.
A collection,
right?
Yeah.
Or just that they're doing a Zelda 35th anniversary celebration like they did with Mario.
Yeah.
Right. Or at least something that's like 50% of what they did for Mario. Because you don't see a lot of Zelda stuff in Super Nintendo World. I will say that.
That's true.
But it's a more Western franchise, right? Like people in the West love Zelda a lot more than people in Japan too. Anyway.
There's going to be a Zelda Game & Watch. No, I'm just kidding. I don't really think that would be cool though. But,
I think there will be.
You think there will be?
Yeah, let's start there. I mean, you're joking, but I definitely think there will be. There is a Zelda Game & Watch from the 80s.
They should do some sort of collectible like that. I bet there'll be something like that. Yeah. If they do it.
There will be. Let me start off the Zelda 35th anniversary predictions with something here. A lot of people have been saying that this year, with it being Zelda's 35th anniversary, they'll do a Zelda 35. Now that would be awesome. And I'm into that. I would definitely play the fuck out of that. I probably would love that game. But my money on a free NSO game that they release to celebrate The Legend of Zelda is Four Swords Adventures being released on the NSO app for free for anybody who has the subscription. That's what I think they would release as kind of their freebie for the year.
And that's a 4-player co-op Zelda game, right?
Yeah, I think it's like, of course, it'd be great if we saw like another Battle Royale game like made of an old NES game like they've been doing recently. But I think they've got that at the ready. They released it for 3DS with a limited time window. It was kind of like maybe even for the 30th anniversary of Zelda, they did that. So I think we can almost guarantee that will be coming out at some point. And I think it would be a free NSO game and limited release.
Yeah.
That would be a great surprise.
Yeah. I mean, Tiffany Treadmore a while ago was like, there's something Zelda related, and you're all going to be like, oh, of course that's it. I think that's it. I think that's what she's talking about when she said that.
What other Zelda games would y'all hope we get either remasters or re-releases or remakes or something of? Anything you think they do something similar, like a collection with something from 3 different eras, kind of like they did with Mario? Maybe Ocarina of Time and maybe like Majora's Mask together. Matthew,
what do you think, Patrick?
I don't know. I'm just skeptical about it. Here's what I hope, I guess. I think it'd be cool if they did Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask in some sort of actually like updated, with some, maybe not like remade or something, but like, touched up together, combine those games. And then maybe like, it'd be cool if we could get Skyward Sword on, I think that's what I would want to see the most, though.
Right.
I never played some of the other ones, so I'd be interested in those too. But
I think you're talking about several different releases here,
yeah, kind of.
If they do it right, it's like there's a couple things to take into account when you're talking, because like with Mario, it's a little bit easier, right? You're like Mario 64, Sunshine and Galaxy makes a lot of sense. I really wish it was
similarly,
Galaxy 2.
Yeah,
right. But with Zelda 3D Zelda games, it's a little more complicated, right? Like, first of all, obviously you've got some sort of bundle with Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. That makes a ton of sense. They've done that already. When we're talking about these anniversaries, before Wind Waker came out, there was a GameCube disc you could buy, which had Zelda 1, Zelda 2, I think it was A Link to the Past. I think that was on there. And then also Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, I believe. And so they've already done a bundle of Zelda games before, which I think it's all but inevitable that they'll do one again this year for the Switch, especially since none of these games are currently on the Switch.
Right.
But then the question remains, are those going to be the NES or the N64 ports just slapped on through emulation like they did with Mario 3D All-Stars? Or do you use the 3DS upscaled ports that Grezzo made as a sort of foundation, right? Like, what has Grezzo done since Link's Awakening, right? Like, they could be working on this some sort of port job. But then you have an additional thing that kind of puts a wrench in everything, which is the other 2 kind of 3D Zelda games that aren't Skyward Sword are Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, both of which already have individually released versions in HD on the Wii U. Right. So do you bundle those together, or do you just port those individually? What do you see as like the 3D All-Stars of Zelda next year? How do you see it put together?
I don't, and that's why I'm having trouble with this.
Yeah. I think it makes sense to do Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and as you said, Twilight Princess and Wind Waker.
Those two separate.
Okay, so you release a pair of $60 retail games.
I think so. Yeah,
that would be interesting. People would be pissed for sure. I think people would be less pissed if they ported the Grezzo 3DS games to the Switch, right? Like with the quality of life improvements that they had in those games and the cleaner graphics. It's already kind of ported to a more widescreen 16:9 aspect ratio. So I would definitely appreciate it that. I can't see them doing that, honestly. I think what I kind of see happening is they'll port the N64 versions of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. They're going to piss everybody off, just like they pissed everybody off without doing anything to Mario 64. And then they'll put Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, the HD versions, all on the same disc or on the same cartridge, right?
Okay.
And they'll release that. And then I think what you were
4-pack.
saying earlier, Matt, yeah, I think it'll be 4 of them. They didn't do the 2 Wii games, but I feel like 2 N64 games you can like value less, so it makes sense to bundle 2 together there in that way. And then I think, as you were saying, Matt, I think they're going to do Skyward Sword, but I think it's going to be its own release. Aonuma himself was like joking about doing a Skyward Sword port like years ago. I think this is the year that we'll see it.
And like some of the speculation that why we didn't get Galaxy 2 is because it's like its unique control scheme, and maybe Skyward Sword also falls that you got to port some of the functionality of the Wii Pro controller.
Right.
Or whatever that
Nunchuck.
edition was.
I just think it's gonna be like Skyward Sword plus Bowser's Fury. You know what I mean? It'll be like that analog to Mario's 35th anniversary. It'll be like the thing we get last. You know what I mean? Like in the next year, but in Nintendo's fiscal year 2021. You know what I mean? It's like that's that of this. I think, if that makes sense. I'm not great at talking tonight, but I think
that's fine.
Yeah, I think we all agree that we're gonna get a Zelda port in some capacity.
Totally.
The thing that kind of messes with me too, and this is getting ahead of ourselves, is if they're going to do some sort of services update with N64 games or something, and how that's going to work with this kind of stuff. I don't know.
Let's jump into that real quick.
Well, yeah, because
it could be a little aside.
It's an aside. Yeah, sure, we can do it, because I think that throws a wrench in this too, which is like if they are going to make any additional things, which I think their update points to possibly doing, unless they're like Game Boy games or something that, and is that why? And then the whole question of, is that why the Mario games are going away and stuff? Because there's going to be a different way to obtain them. I don't know. That's another reason I'm really stuck on this old Zelda games. Like, how are they going to come? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What do y'all?
My money. I kind of like don't think we'll be getting N64 without a price increase on the subscription service. If we could just kind of quickly, aside from Zelda, to talk about these, virtual systems on NSO, I think that we're likely to see Game Boy. I would say, and if we do get that, it'll be like black and white Game Boy, like maybe Game Boy Advance, maybe Game Boy Color. But I would say probably just Game Boy. And then they'll make a new tier, and N64 games will be on that. With maybe then they also gate like Game Boy Advance or whatever in that too, or whatever. But I think anything past that, we're just going to see in re-releases on the eShop or in collections like this. GameCube, I don't think we'll ever see in that. I think you can just easily port that. It feels modern enough. You know what I mean? But yeah, maybe they're just trying to keep it like 16-bit and below with the NSO as well. And they're just going to be doing them part and parcel with games or collections.
Well, let's move on to the other potential anniversaries. I think the other likely one is the Pokemon one. I think, 25th Pokemon anniversary is pretty big. And I think they've been hyping up this being a big year for Pokemon. There's been rumors of collections. I think collections there could make sense too. Maybe even more sense of some of the early ones coming, unless again the Game Boy game thing or something that it's just hard to tell. None of us are huge Pokemon heads right now, so I don't know how y'all feel about this. Or
I loved the Pokemon DLC.
I would have given it the golden head if y'all had put it in there.
We fucked up. We did it. I think if Game Boy is coming to NSO, it would make sense to launch with Pokemon.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that makes it.
It'd be huge. It would increase the quality of the service and make it better for buyers or subscribers, but also really support and increase the subscriber base.
They made a big to-do about it when Blue and Red came to the Virtual Console on 3DS. It like made the news, and so it's like, all right, like the mainstream news was tight. It's like, you could play Pokemon again. It's like, you've always been able to do that. but yeah, so I think you're onto something there, for sure. That makes sense, that to like kind of lead in like a Pokemon anniversary thing, tying it in with Game Boy games. That makes a lot of sense.
So maybe the anniversary is more focused on new games and Pokemon Snap or something, or some remake or something.
Yeah, well, what about remakes? You know, we've heard about a Diamond and Pearl remake, I think, for a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, they haven't done an X and Y remake. Which one came first? Do you know? I don't know. Either.
No, I don't.
We're not the people to talk about this.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Well, I think my question is, do you think we'll see a remake or like a Let's Go? Because I think the way that they work, it's like Pokemon games. It's like the base game comes out and then like the ultra version of it, right? And then eventually there's a remake and then there's a Let's Go version down the line. That's kind of the way they've been doing it.
I think I know a lot of people don't want there to be Let's Go, but it does seem like Pokemon Go is doing okay. So I think there's a good chance that they might do another Let's Go game, you know?
Yeah.
Especially how it interfaces with Pokemon Home.
Right.
As long as there's a connection with that service, then it makes sense to make another Let's Go.
Why would they make the trading framework if they're not going to use it between the app and game?
Exactly.
Yeah, it seems possible.
No. Either way, there's going to be a lot of Pokemon stuff. I think we'll definitely see some Pokemon Jinkos.
I can't wait. I'll be first in line, baby.
But yeah, I mean, 25 is a big one, right? I feel
Yeah.
like 25 makes more sense to have a big to-do than 35.
Totally. That's why I'm also like, it's just so weird. You know, like,
Nintendo doesn't seem to give a shit about like 0 ones either. They're like ones that end in 5, which is weird.
And 25 makes more sense than 35, but whatever. It's also the 35th anniversary of Metroid. I don't think Metroid's big enough series to warrant some big 35th anniversary to do. It's entirely possible that they do something or they mention it because there's a lot of rumors going around that there is a 2D Metroid game that's completed that Nintendo is sitting on.
Yes.
Do y'all believe those? I feel like there's been so many of them, and they kind of came around the same time as the Paper Mario rumors, and seem to be coming from the same source, so that I kind of tend to believe it.
I feel like there were 3 big rumors that came from the same source. There, one was Paper Mario, which was revealed almost immediately. Then the other one was 2D Metroid, and the other one was WarioWare. Remember, they were talking about a WarioWare game
at the same time.
Those coming around at the same time. So jumping ahead a little bit, I do think that we'll see WarioWare, but I think we'll see both that 2D Metroid game and the WarioWare game this year. So I think, hopefully, I really do believe that they're just sitting on Metroid Prime Collection. So hopefully we see that this year, but regardless, I know we'll at least see one Metroid game for its 35th anniversary.
Yeah, it seems weird to release 2 Metroid games in a year because they're not super well known, but I don't know. I guess they could.
I think so. I don't think they want to release like Metroid Prime Trilogy right before Metroid Prime 4 comes out. Those are 3 like decently hefty games that'll take you a while to get through. I think they release it with some news and some footage like they did with Bayonetta 1 and 2 when they announced Bayonetta 3.
Yeah.
And and I think it'll be like that. But regardless, I think that 2D Metroid game is really likely this year as well. What do you guys think it is, by the way?
I hope it's new. I hope it's Metroid 5.
5.
But
I would love to play Fusions, HD Fusions.
Yeah. That game is so good. You've played that game, right?
I haven't played it for a long time.
Dude. It holds up. I almost like don't want it to be because it just holds up. The same way that I hope it's not Super Metroid because that's on NSO. Right. You can just play that game and it's basically perfect. Like I would much rather they just release Fusion and make a sequel to Fusion, right? I think that would be great. But I don't know. Mercury Steam, I feel like will be releasing their Metroid game this year.
That's one of the few things, just because of how much rumors there have been and how some of the other ones that seem related come true, that I kind of believe we'll see some Metroid stuff. The other anniversary and rumors we've been hearing about is Donkey Kong. It's the 40th anniversary. I guess that's is that the arcade cabinet or what? No, what marks 40th?
It's the release of Donkey Kong Arcade. Yeah. So this is also really Mario's 40th anniversary.
Yeah, right.
Well. It's Jumpman's 40th. Yeah.
But there's been a lot of rumors about a new Donkey Kong Country game. And I kind of tend to believe this one too, because of the way that they weirdly parsed out those Donkey Kong Country games for NSO. And I feel like Nintendo is just so weird. They don't, the way they do things is like, that'll get them or something, or I don't know, or like it doesn't. I think I could see an argument to say that, well, why does that hint at this or tease it? And I'd be like, I agree, it's a poor way of doing it, but I think it's because Nintendo. But that's the way Nintendo does stuff, and I could see it possibly being related to a new Donkey Kong Country game.
Dumb patterns are still patterns. I mean, I think that if we get, we've gotten a lot of smoke on a new kind of Donkey Kong Country project of some nature, right? I don't think that Retro has really got one in the can, just like waiting for Donkey Kong's 40th anniversary. That would be great. I think that would be fantastic. But I think, I think a lot of people think that Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze was like given to somebody else to like port from the Wii U to the Switch. I think that's what Retro was working on.
Yeah, I think
for a good amount of the, I think they did that all in house, and so it's like, so I don't think that they've got another DKC in the can, but I do think that we'll see something in that Donkey Kong Country franchise, be it a sort of Jungle Beat situation or some kind of other game. I think we'll get, and then I think that especially if we get Game Boy games, they'll make a big deal out of Donkey Kong 94 coming to the Switch, which honestly is a good enough game to where they could just be like, we're releasing this because of Donkey Kong's birthday, because it's it's kind of like a evolution of the arcade game in Game Boy form, right? So that's kind of how I see it. Are you guys Donkey Kong 94 fans?
I'm unfamiliar.
Yeah.
Really? Have you guys never played this game?
No.
Dudes. Oh my God.
Sure. Talk to us.
Donkey Kong released for Game Boy in 1994 is like one of the greatest games of all time. It like spawned the Mario versus Donkey Kong series, which was on portables for a long time. But it's basically like the first 4 levels are the arcade game levels, and you're playing as Mario, right? And then you beat those first 4 levels, and then it's like 90 additional levels. And it's just this huge game with tons of platforming. It's where Mario first got the backflip and like the triple jump and like all his acrobatics and shit that he does, like all kind of came from this game. It controls like a dream. It's still super fun to play. I was playing it the other day.
Well, let's hope that comes to the Game Boy that's service that's coming.
It will. It was like, I feel it was like one of the last original Game Boy games to come out. And it's just a totally polished piece of gold that's still eminently playable to this day.
Well, I know we may be going kind of long, so we should probably move on.
I'm just like beside myself that you guys have not played this game.
I've heard of it. I just never played.
Will you promise me that you'll at least download a ROM before we record next episode and tell me what you think about this
I
game?
will never do that,
no,
David.
It'll take you so much less time than Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
I promise you.
I'll do it if you want me to.
And I will play Donkey Kong 1994.
Thank you.
David Howe.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't believe you.
You should. I do. When speaking of Donkey Kong, if we'll get a similar treatment of like Donkey Kong Country 35,
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Or
dude, I would fucking nut for that. I'm nutting right now, just imagining it.
Your eyes did roll to the back of your head. I was like, wow, that's all it takes.
And that's why we don't do a video podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I get visibly horny once an episode.
Oh, man. There's also been rumors of Splatoon spinoff. I don't know how credible those rumors are, but that'd be kind of cool if they do it.
Yeah.
We were talking on Discord, and Spawnwave was saying that, I think it was Spawnwave that joked about that there would be a Splatoon rhythm game.
It seems
That might have been
possible.
Scott the Waz who said that.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah.
They built it into Splatoon.
Yeah, I was going to say
1 and
it's
2,
part of the game, so I could, there is a rhythm game within it, so they could do
it's also
that.
Other than its kind of core gameplay and shooter mechanics, it's known for its music, and so that would make a lot of sense. I'd be way into it.
Also, we can talk about DLC real briefly. We know Smash DLC's coming. Allegedly, we're going to get all of them by the end of the year. They haven't told us that's not happening, though I could see that being slightly pushed since that was...
How many more is left? 3?
4 more characters.
4?
Yeah. So we'd be getting one a quarter. I think that they'll probably still get that in on time because I think it felt like it was a long ways off when they announced it initially.
Even throughout, like if anybody would deliver on that, it would be Sakurai.
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
Like he worked through like wrist failure and shit.
He had an IV.
Yeah. The dude will get 4 DLC characters if it kills him.
And maybe, unless y'all want to talk about who those are, I think we can move on.
I think that's a whole episode.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
Any other DLC thoughts or predictions? I don't think there's any other major DLC announced that we're waiting on for Nintendo games. I know.
Always rumors for Mario 3D Collection.
Oh,
DLC.
that would be the one.
Galaxy 2.
That makes the most sense.
Yeah.
But it makes more sense to be a standalone Galaxy 2 digital download and not DLC.
Yeah. Especially if it's going away in a couple months.
Or
now.
like that too, but that's a huge reason why not do it. Or like, yeah, why limit it to people who own that game?
Well, why would you make games go away?
Exactly. No, it doesn't make, none of it makes sense.
dumb patterns. Anyway,
stop asking questions to my questions.
I think going along with Mario stuff, I think we'll never see Mario Odyssey DLC, but I do think that we could potentially see an expansion of Mario 35. We saw the same thing happen with Tetris 99. They're like, it's going to be here for a limited time. And then they released paid DLC for it. And that game has a new Maximus Cup this weekend.
Yeah, we didn't
got
put
to talk
that
about
in the
that
news,
in the news. It's because kind of who cares, but I will be playing it. Basically, Maximus Cups now are like the times that I play Tetris 99, and that's it.
That makes sense.
But yeah, I'd love to see an expansion of that. I'd love to see more Mario games put in there, or just that they tell us they're not removing it at the very least.
Well, let's talk just other speculation about, is there anything, I mean, we went over a lot there. So are there any other games that you would want to speculate about or hope for in 2021? Any maybe third-party games or first-party games, collaborations, anything that we didn't
franchises
cover?
We haven't seen in a while?
Yeah. I mean, I think I hope we have some cool surprises that, I mean, with all those likely things and rumored things, it doesn't seem like there's a ton of room for any huge surprises, but I hope there is.
I hope there's similar to the treatment that we got for the Fire Emblem release. Hope we get something similar with Mother or Earthbound.
That makes sense.
That would be great. I would take a Donkey Kong 40th like they did for Fire Emblem 30th with that like kind of limited release.
Yeah.
However, I've not been able to track down a Fire Emblem 30th, so maybe maybe don't do that. Maybe add a couple more to the stores. But let's talk Mario Sports for a second. I feel like we're all but guaranteed a Mario Sports game this year.
It seems possible.
Golf, right? Probably going to be golf.
That's the easiest one to guess. It feels the most
Camelot?
likely. It feels right. Yeah.
What Camelot came out with Tennis Aces 2 years ago at this point?
2018, May-ish?
2018, like June?
Yep.
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. So I think that's about the time frame of a dev cycle for a Mario tennis game, right?
Yeah.
If they put the same amount of effort into it that they did with Aces and they kind of dole out updates in the following months, I feel like a tight 2 years makes a lot of sense for a dev cycle for a game like that. I don't think we'll be seeing Strikers this year because that's next level and, a little too recent that Luigi's Mansion came out for them to have a full new game ready to go. So yeah, I'd say definitely Mario Golf you can probably expect this year.
Any other franchises we might see? I can't think of anything. I don't have any. I just feel so thrown off by the amount of things that are rumored that, like, what else could there be? That seems like a lot.
Yeah. What about like Mario Kart? We've talked about that in the past. You think we'll be seeing a new Mario Kart this year?
I just don't see the incentive to Nintendo to make a new Mario Kart unless they're pushing hardware. If we got new hardware announcement, then there's probably a Mario Kart 9 soon after that takes advantage of some hardware specification. Yeah. But I just can't say it because people are still buying that fucking game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about
it's a great game.
Totally. I think, yeah. Well, there's no reason to. They've got like multiple Mario Kart avenues right now too, right? They've got mobile, they've got their home circuit, they've got 8, which is sold more in 2020 than it did in 2019, and
they have a theme park.
Yeah, they've got a ride now,
Yeah.
so like they're putting all their people on that. They're just going to ride around that for the entirety of 2021, and then they'll come up with some good ideas. But I do think we talked about it in the news, but I think that Kirby game is going to be huge this year. I think it's going to be the biggest Kirby game yet. I think that this might finally be the time that we see like a 3D Kirby game.
That'd be cool.
Make the big leap, especially with all the kind of buzz that the creator of Kirby's been putting out there. What about Mother? I know it's taboo. I know nobody wants to get their hopes up for Mother 3 or anything in that franchise, but do you think we got anything there?
Matt was hoping for it. I think it's possible.
I hope so. I hope it gets the same treatment as Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
If there's nothing Mother this year, then at least Deltarune Chapter 2. What's Toby Fox doing? He's not working on Town DLC, I tell you that much. He's just been working on music for the canceled Town DLC for years. Maybe we move on to hardware.
Yeah, so hardware, like you hinted at this, Matt. I don't know what to believe anymore, but there's all these Switch Pro rumors, and in particular, April was being pointed as a time by Tiffany Treadmore, and on some of these likely fake leaks. I think they had that.
They all have April.
They all have Switch Pro being announced for around then. I think there's a good chance we see some hardware revision. I just don't know what it is. If it's a V3 more kind of a thing, or if it is a separate system. I know they want to make Switch Family a system. I think we're into our this would be
the fifth year.
So come March, it will have been 5 years, right? Or we will be going
March, we'll
into our fifth
going
year.
into the 5th year with the Switch.
So that seems like
which is the. Also, I mean, I think that's just why we're gonna see a shit ton of games this year. It's like, I feel like the 5th year of a system is where the system's really hitting its stride, right? And you start to see lots of releases that all the developers have figured their stuff out by this point.
What do y'all think? We all believe the Pro stuff for then, or Matthew, you're going to say something?
I think we'll see some iteration of hardware this year. I hope it's Pro personally. That's what I want for me.
Yeah. Me too.
I'm pretty locked into the idea that it's like a DSi to the DS, right? I think that it's going to have better computing power, but not like, a brand new system. It'll have a couple new features. I think it's going to have a camera. I'm constantly surprised that the Switch doesn't have a mic and a camera built into it, right? Like that's been a thing since the DSi, right? And so I think that stuff is easy. I think they'll add in like chat capabilities in that way. I think that they'll use the extra processing power or the extra memory or whatever they end up using for like user interface improvements, and a bezel-less Switch, or a smaller bezel, you know what I mean? Slightly bigger screen in your hand. But I definitely think something's coming this year. I mean, if it isn't, then it's like, I think the lifespan of the system is not what we thought it was going to be,
Yeah. I wonder if this is just pure speculation. If that DSi version of the Switch is a better screen or whatever the specifications are, I wonder if we'll get like a version that still plays all the Switch games, but has more memory for some of the cloud-based gaming, or has ultra wideband.
Yeah, that's a good guess.
Wi-Fi support that can support larger games over cloud gaming and support something at a higher resolution.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
I don't think that they just released, Control and Hitman and they're like, cool, that's it for streaming. No, I think they want to continue on with that.
That's totally true.
Especially since, we're getting into like a generation of games that you just probably won't be able to port to the Switch. Like they're not going to be able to port, maybe a Switch Pro could play Cyberpunk or whatever, but it's like, the Xbox One can't even play that. So it's like, we're getting to a point where streaming is going to be necessary in order to play these games in your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Call of Duty is huge, or even maybe it's cheaper for EA to make a cloud version of Madden.
Yeah.
Rather than make a complete new port to Switch.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
For sure.
Well, it's hard to say when, but I think if it is coming, it definitely is probably after March, right? And I also think that they're not going to announce hardware revision or whatever it is very far out from when it releases because they don't want people holding off from buying a Switch.
Yeah. I think the new 3DS was announced like a month before it came out, or like 4 or 5 weeks, something like that.
So we'll be talking about it until it's like imminent.
Yeah, totally. Because they know everybody's been talking about it since even before the Switch fucking came out. People have been talking about it. So it's
Switch
like,
Pro?
Yeah, if they do anything, if they give a PowerPoint presentation to the president of Walmart, it'll get out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So like they're holding that shit close to the chest. I do think it's going to happen this year. Something will happen this year. Whatever it is, I could not really venture to guess. I've guessed a bunch, but it's like, but what I'm sure of is that something will happen this year for sure.
We kind of covered services a little bit, but is there anything else about NSO or maybe like an OS update or anything y'all think might happen this year? I think if there is a Switch Pro, those things might come around the same time because it just would make sense. But
is this the year of folders?
Yeah, like I think if there is a Switch Pro, they could do some big, or not, those aren't big, but they could do some nice quality of life updates to the OS.
I think that's what they're holding it for. I think that's what, because it's not going to be like an enormous upgrade, but one of the things that makes it feel fresh and new would be a new OS and a new operating system and new shit going on under the hood, right? I think they're holding all of that. That's why we haven't seen folders. That's why we haven't seen all this stuff. They're just kind of like waiting to release it in a big, like, oh, hey, finally package to get people who are already bought into it a reason to buy the new one for sure. I think NSO, I think we will see an improvement this year. A lot of times we've been saying like, oh, they'll release new stuff around September because that's when a lot of people's stuff rejuvenates or you renew it in September. So it's giving them an incentive to, but I think now they have enough people that signed up in fucking March for Animal Crossing, and just throughout the time since Animal Crossing has come out, all the new units they sold in 2020 to where that's not really an issue anymore. I think that we could see an update to NSO at any point during the year, but we'll definitely see something. Whether or not it's a new console, I couldn't venture to guess, but we're going to see something for sure. Something relatively beefy to add value or an additional tier or whatever.
Yeah, I wonder if we get a new tier when we're going to see a price increase.
And how they'll handle that for current subscribers.
Yeah, it's
right. Yeah,
it's so weird because they probably have a lot of those cards on the shelves, right? Like 1 year of NSO at Target or whatever. Like, and so that's where like the tier thing. I don't know where it would have to be a tier. They couldn't do just a price. I mean, they could do whatever they want, but
they activate all those cards anyway. So all you got to do is go out there with a Sharpie and just put a 3 over the 2. $30 a month now, and you get N64 games. It's easy.
Yep. Well, I think that covers most of the Nintendo stuff. Is there anything Nintendo related we didn't talk about y'all want to mention?
Just briefly about hardware. I'm going to bring up hardware again.
Go for
Imagine it. Is we always talk about Pro, but there's also rumors that Nintendo might make a cheaper model, cheaper than the Switch Lite,
kid friendly too. I've seen in the rumor, like, which makes me think clamshell,
like a Sega Pico.
Educational. That was their like, wasn't that it was like their edutainment system.
Yeah. So there was a game that I used to play at Toys R Us that was Sega Pico, and it was I can't think of the artist. Makes a lot of cats in towns.
Mickey Mouse and the numbers, colors, and letters.
Yeah, that's the one.
I think a set-top box. I think a TV-only Switch makes a lot of sense. Cheaper, $200, $150 maybe. Think you could maybe even fucking get away with doing it for $100 if you don't have a controller with it. $150 though with a Pro controller. I think that is a bundle that you could put in a fucking stocking or whatever. That's like something they could release for next year as its own thing. I don't think that's the Switch Pro.
No,
I think that there will be something separate than that, but I could see them doing more for sure, Matt.
Yeah, you phase out the production of the current Switch,
right,
and you you stop making screens, and you take all of the other production lines.
Absolutely,
they're
just
to me.
Using the Mii's and making Zelda characters out of it. That's what they're doing. When life gives you lemons, you make Mii-based Zelda characters.
Well,
I do want to quickly say, I think that we'll probably see something else for Ring Fit Adventure this year. I think that game went way beyond what they were expecting it would do. They couldn't keep that shit on store shelves. Still, they can't keep that shit on store shelves. So I think that we'll see, I think enough people now have probably gone through the main game that they're like ready for more shit. So I think we'll see more of that.
Like a DLC adventure kind of, or like,
yeah, something like that, or just an expansion to the game. Paid DLC, I could totally see that being a thing. Because why would you get it if you already have if you haven't played the game that much? You could just play the rest of the game, right? And then I do think, just in the vein of Ring Fit Adventure, I think that there's obviously going to be some weird batshit out of left field Nintendo thing that happens this year in the vein of Ring Fit Adventure, in the vein of Labo, in the vein of Mario Kart Home Circuit, and that is the stuff that, I'm sorry, listeners, is impossible to predict. But there will be something, and when it happens, the week that it happens on the podcast, I'll be like, that's the thing I was talking about in January.
Awesome. Well, maybe real briefly, if there's any other 2021 gaming stuff, whether it's Sony, Microsoft, general trends, VR, or a personal thing that y'all want to talk about, let's do it now, real quickly. Y'all want to go around and do it that way? Is there anything?
Yeah, Matt, do you have anything?
This is something that I thought about before the recording this episode. I'm talking about an Atlas game. I would love to see a new trauma center.
Oh yeah,
we haven't seen one since like 2015.
Yeah,
or something along those lines. So I think if we're going to get a reimagining of that franchise, it feels like 2021 could be it.
I'd love that. Yeah. I think this is going to be a big year for Atlas in general. I think Atlas finally realized that people want Persona games not just on PlayStation. When they released Persona 4 Golden on Steam, it shot to #1 and is still super high on the charts every single week. I think they're like, oh shit. So I think we'll, and there's I think there's an anniversary of the Persona series next year even. So I think we'll be seeing a lot more Persona games. We got Strikers. That's something we didn't talk about in the games anymore coming to Switch.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I think it's coming to PlayStation too. That's partly why I didn't put it on there.
Right. But anyway, I think we'll see a lot of Persona stuff for sure. What do you guys think in terms of Microsoft acquisitions? Do you think we'll see another big Bethesda level acquisition from Microsoft this year?
I don't think we'll see more acquisitions, but we'll probably see Bethesda games being pulled from Steam, possibly.
Ooh, really? You think?
Or
that'd be a bad look.
A focus on Game Pass,
like no longer selling it on Steam, but putting it on Game Pass.
I don't think they'll go that far. I mean, they still have Ori and the Blind Forest and shit on Switch.
Fair.
Yeah.
I think at the very least, we'll see more Bethesda games on Game Pass.
Yeah. I think this year, once the deal is done, every game from Bethesda will be on Game Pass. I think that's Microsoft's MO. I think they like EA Play on there. They like, what's the other
Ubisoft?
One?
Is that going to happen, or is that a rumor?
Well, that's been rumored. That's something we could certainly talk about. But I think at the very least, if they add every Bethesda game and every Ubisoft Plus game to Game Pass,
it's a good deal.
That's something that seems totally doable, and that's all they would need to do this year. You know what I mean? And that would really still add tons of value. I would love that. You guys don't think Microsoft is buying Sega?
Nah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that Bethesda deal is probably really a lot of money, and while they're Microsoft and they can throw money around, they probably need to see that turn. I mean, it probably already has made them a lot of money, but they probably need to see that make them a lot of money before they do something that big, at least.
I do wonder if that's currently being discussed, what are the cultural implications of
Sega,
a U.S. company coming with their big dick dollars?
Totally.
One of the weird things about Sega though is wasn't one of the founders of Sega American? Isn't that why it's called Sega? Didn't that stand for something? But it's always been Japanese, really, though. Right?
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like it's a Japanese company through and through. I know that there's obviously Sega of America. There's the whole console wars.
It was founded by an American guy and a Japanese, and I believe, or something like that. Or I don't know.
You heard it here first, folks. Microsoft is fucking buying Sega.
Patrick Isley said so.
Straight from Patrick's mouth.
No, I'm just talking about the
You said it. You
Americans
said it.
that were involved in Sega.
Before we move from Microsoft, Halo Infinite's coming out in fall.
Matt's excited about that.
So stoked about that. Yeah. So we'll probably see more Halo stuff.
Yeah.
Halo merch. Halo Mountain Dews.
Oreos.
Yeah, we'll see a re-release of the Halo Doritos that were released earlier this year because they thought it was coming out in November.
Right.
But yeah, I think a lot of the big first-party Microsoft stuff is coming 2022. I think that's when we're going to see Fable. I think that's when we're going to see a lot of the stuff that when they made all those huge studio acquisitions. I think we'll be seeing most of that next year. I'm looking forward to some Microsoft stuff this year for sure, though. Like the Medium, I'm looking forward to playing that this month.
Me too.
But what about Sony? Do we see anything big from Sony this year? I mean, obviously, if they got the PS5 out, they got to do some crazy stuff.
God of War.
Yeah.
You think we'll see God of War this year?
I don't know. I mean, they've got a couple of games they announced that we're waiting on, right? So I don't know that we'll
Ratchet.
I don't know that we'll see any huge unannounced things, but probably one or two, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay, cool. Well, I just wanted to ask.
Hadn't thought about it.
I don't know.
As much.
Yeah, I think that's what's so interesting is like when I think about Sony, what they're doing for 2021, I really have no idea.
Yeah. I think they're holding a lot of games until enough people can buy them.
Yeah.
You know?
None of us have one.
Yeah.
I don't have a PS5.
Yeah.
If you have one, that's great. But so many people that want one don't have them. So maybe they spend the first half of this year just like figuring out their stocking issues, and then they release Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
And then they just release everything for the rest of the year. We'll see. But that's 2021, folks. We just predicted everything that is going to happen.
100%.
Yep. That's it.
Accurate.
Moving on. Y'all ready to move on?
I don't know. PSVR. Let's go with PSVR 2, right? We'll probably see that this year, right?
I don't know. You think
so.
they'll... Yeah.
I hope so.
Okay.
What's happening with Sony? What are they doing?
Labo VR 2 is coming out this year.
Anything else on 2021?
Bug Snacks.
Bug Snacks Prime Trilogy is coming out.
I like video games. Video games.
I cannot wait for WarioWare Switch to come out in January. All right, let's move on.
All right, cool. We're going to take a break. That's 2021. We predicted it. You can high five us when all these things come true.
But from a safe distance.
Yeah, that's right. Virtually. We'll take a short break and then we'll talk about the games we've been playing recently. This week I've continued to play Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I am just chipping away at this game, y'all. I don't think I have anything major to report there, but that's one of the major things I've been playing. I beat Link's Awakening with my son, so that was a lot of fun over the break. And then we started playing this game I bought on sale a while back called Micetopia, which is a sort of pixel short game, Metroidvania game. My son was really into mice and mouse things for a little while, so I bought this around that time when it was on sale.
Has he read Redwall?
No, I think that's a little too violent, isn't it? I don't know.
Did you not read it?
Is Redwall? There's two mouse comic books.
It's like mice versus rats, and it's like medieval.
I read the other one.
Yeah.
What am I thinking of? There's another mouse.
I mean, Redwall is pretty violent, but it's not that bad. You're thinking of I know it. You're thinking of Watership Down.
No,
that's rabbits.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, we could talk about.
This is not the topic, but I want to figure out what I'm thinking of. Maybe I am thinking of Redwall. Anyway, Micetopia. Can't recommend it. Sadly, it's just not. It's not that great. I'm sure. I hate to say that, but it's true. Like the combat is really frustrating. It's kind of a frustrating game to play. There are enemies that come at you from angles, but you can only swing your sword forward, and you can only shoot your bow when you're on the ground. And so there's lots of weird collision that happens where I'm like, how can I kill this enemy? It's frustrating to play. The platforming is all right, but the combat just kind of makes it a bit of a slog.
I'll steer clear.
Yeah, it's only a couple hours, and it's only a couple bucks that I paid for it. So, And then been playing a lot. My son's been building a lot of his Lego Mario sets that he got for Christmas, and that's not exactly a game, but we were talking about it. We were talking about it on the Discord, so I thought I'd mention it. He got a lot of them.
Do you understand how it works now?
Yeah, I understand how it works. It's like a lot of Lego, it is still the most fun is building it and admiring it rather than actually playing with it. It has more interactive elements than a typical Lego set, and we are more inclined to do those. I have some criticisms of it, but darn it if the little Shy Guys and Pokies and Fuzzies and all that aren't super cute. And while Mario is a little awkward, the Toad character's cute, cool. I like it. And so like,
do they have little screens in their bellies, or is it just Mario?
No? And that's why it makes them a little bit better. Their proportions feel a little bit more right. I do wish there was a Lego Luigi, because I think then we would play it a lot more. If we had two things that we could do together. I see why they didn't do that, but
you just jump on his head when he's over pits, like in New Super Mario.
And just knock him right down into it.
Yeah.
The way that it's technically supposed to work is there's like a timer, and you start the course by starting in a pipe, and then you're trying to get to the flag, and there's all these little things you can do, and some of the little contraptions work better than others. The best one is the pokey. It's the most satisfying and the most like reliable, because a lot of them you try to do and it doesn't work that great, but the pokey one's a lot of fun. You kind of knock the pokey pieces out with a hammer. So the pokey set, pokey set is recommended.
Cool.
You've also integrated other Lego sets into your Mushroom Kingdom world,
well,
right?
that was, I sent y'all a picture. There was just some random ones that were set there. We do have my son has like a cool Lego dragon that I was like, it's kind of like the dragon. It's not at all like the dragon from Mario Odyssey, but I'm like, it kind of logically fits.
Like what is it, like the Blarg character, like the lava dragon guy?
No, I'm thinking of the like ruined kingdom in Odyssey, where there's an actual realistic dragon that Mario fights.
Oh yeah. The Dark Souls portion of Mario Odyssey.
Exactly.
I forgot.
The anachronistic
Totally forgot that
kingdom.
part of that game existed.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what we've been doing over here.
Great. What have you been playing, Matt?
I'll go next. I've been playing 2 games, Last of Us 2. Oh boy. And Hat in Time.
Oh, okay.
Very different games.
Oh yeah, I bought a Hat in Time because I was playing Last of Us 2. It's on sale on Steam right now. It's 50% off.
Nice.
So I think I bought it for like 10 or 15 bucks or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was a nice break.
Well,
to take away from the very violent Last of Us 2.
Yeah, you're saying a lot by not saying a lot, and I know we don't want to hear any spoilers or anything because it's a pretty new game and a story heavy game, but like it just made you feel like you needed a break, I guess.
I mean, it's graphic. It's a very violent game in its animation and display of graphic violence. It's just like intense. Any of the death scenes where you as your character that you're playing dies, there's a split second where your neck is snapped, or your neck is torn out, or your eyes pop out of your head. There's a split second where you see this. And
that's like like the Tomb Raider reboots have that too.
They're pretty graphic, yeah.
They're super gritty. But you couple that with the desperation of survival of Last of Us 2, where like you're not sure who the good guys are, and you're not even sure if you're the good guy with the characters you're playing. So it just gives you this feeling of uneasiness that like it reminds you that the world is
without spoiling anything. Do you eat people in that game?
Do you eat people?
Yeah. Do you ever have to resort to cannibalism?
There's a reference to the cannibalistic cult from the first Last of Us.
But you don't
you don't eat anyone.
Okay. Right,
so it doesn't go that dark.
All right, I'll play it.
You're good.
That's what your line is cannibalism.
Good news, there's no cannibalism, there's no incest. So you're good to go.
No cannibalism, no incest, and COVID is not mentioned once.
That's true. It's a great fucking game.
Yeah.
And I would say it's probably, we're in 2021, so I finished it in 2021, so I can't say it's one of my favorite games last year, but it would be. Just
the story.
You get why it was voted Game of the Year at the Game Awards.
Oh my god, it's just there's some of they do. Derek. How do you say his name?
Kopswa.
And we were talking on Facebook about this. Is when you defeat an NPC in front of another NPC. The living NPC will say, "Oh my God, Craig," or "Oh my God, Jill."
they'll
you're
name
dead.
them. Yeah,
They'll name the characters, so you'll be
Yikes.
killing these nondescript NPCs, and you'll be like, "Oh my god,
They have names."
They're like, "How am I going to explain this to your kids, Dorothy and Edward?"
Exactly. So
That were
it's
born
funny.
in
Some of them have
1995, and
They love turtles and time.
it gets very specific. They start talking about their whole lives.
Yeah.
But it's a great like piece that they do, that Naughty Dog did, to make the world feel more and more immersive, and your choices matter. They might not matter to the story, the narrative of the game, but it feels like it does.
Mm-hmm.
And couple that with its graphic violence. It's an intense game. But just like the storytelling is pretty fucking incredible.
that sounds like it's almost like commentary on graphic violence by using graphic violence, and which makes me think of like Inglourious Bastards or something. Does it feel like it's doing that, or is it?
I don't think it is. Okay. It just fits with the story and the environment of Last of Us 2, which is people are just trying to fucking survive, and in order to survive, you got to be violent.
You just gotta eat. You gotta eat everyone you see,
dude. You gotta take that leg and munch on it. Otherwise, you're gonna die, dude.
I'm just saying that's what it takes for me to play a game. Is human.
Well, good news, because A Hat in Time has cannibalism.
Oh yeah,
still on sale, right?
I never played A Hat in Time. And is it fun, or is it?
It's really fun. It's very cute. Some of the animations are over the top cute. Yeah. But it takes the same format of Sunshine and Mario 64, where you start a level and you have a task. And when you get the star, or whatever the equivalent of the star is, you replay the level in a new format.
Great stuff. And that's on the Switch.
Yeah, it is on the Switch. I think it's like $30 on the Switch.
Very good. It's on sale.
I'm playing on PC.
On Steam right now.
Yeah.
Or was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great, cute game if you want to relax and, wear costumes.
Munch on some heads.
Love eating people. David, what about you? What are you playing?
So I've been taking a Cyberpunk break this week. I decided to take a little break. I'm about 55, 60 hours into that game. And it was like, I've been neglecting other games, and I've been playing the game slow. Like I'm like 55, 60 hours in. I still haven't beaten the main plot, and people are saying they're getting that done in 20, 30 hours. So it's like, I'll take a little break and I'll come back to this, play it again at my own pace, really stretch it out. So I've been playing some other games this week. In fact, I started and finished a game, which is rare for me. I don't tend to finish my video games, but I did start and complete Ori and the Blind Forest on the Nintendo Switch. It's actually Sasha's game. I was playing Sasha's copy of the game, and really enjoyed that game. I think, this past weekend I've had lower serotonin levels and was getting a little frustrated with the game at times. It was surprisingly frustrating game. I've kind of heard it being more of like a kind of a casual platforming experience, but I was actually having a little bit of trouble with the game. So maybe I'm just not good at video games anymore. But there were definitely like sections out of nowhere where I was like, I don't know that you're supposed to fail this part 30 times in a row and then get it right. You know what I mean? Like, especially the sections where you're like escaping. Have you guys played Ori and the Blind Forest?
I have not. It's funny that you played this week. I was thinking about playing that.
Yeah.
I picked it up at some point and I want to play it, but I haven't.
Yeah. Matt, you've played it?
Yeah. Are you talking about the owl scenes?
The owl scenes, and then also like when you're in like a tree or a cavern or something, and then it's like the Metroid escape scenes, right? Yeah. Like where it's filling with water and you're like using the skills you made over the last couple hours playing the game, really fast, and you have to like do them like reflexes. That kind of stuff. Like I was like, man, this is really cool. And it's very dramatic and it's all happening so fast, but I just kept like kind of failing over and over. And again, maybe it was my mindset. I was just like not in a great like mood for some of this week. Like Sasha was out of town for a bit and I was kind of like alone, just like banging my head against the table playing Ori and the Blind Forest. I'm like, I'm going to finish this game. God damn it. But it's a fantastic game, my mood notwithstanding. And I started Ori and the Will of the Wisps on my Xbox Series S. And already I like that game a lot more than Ori and the Blind Forest.
That's what I hear.
Yeah. It's, one of my major problems with Ori and the Blind Forest was the combat. It just ended up being you just mash the combat button a bunch of times, and you're like, why isn't this character dying at the rate that I want him to die? But in Ori and the Will of the Wisps, it kind of turns that auto lock-on attack into like more of a sword, like an energy beam or lightning sword thing that goes out in front of you. So it feels more tangible, and you can aim the direction of the attack. And it's not just locking on. So it's immediately more satisfying. And I feel like I can bring my movement into the attacks, where before I was just trying to stay as far away as I could from the enemies so I could shock them without getting hit. So that's mainly the Ori games, both of them. They're both on the Switch. I will say, goddamn, Ori and the Will of the Wisps is like optimized for Xbox Series X and S and looks incredible on that system on my TV. So I'm very happy to be playing it on that. But I think that you'll have a wonderful experience playing either game on your Switch if you do that. And then other than that, just a couple little things. Picked back up Clubhouse games, 51 Worldwide Classics, because I was receiving so much praise on it last episode that it made me want to play a bunch. Definitely you have to wait a little bit to play some games. But it's got a nice thing in the online where it like shows when other people are waiting in waiting rooms.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, even if no one's waiting in a waiting room on a game you want to play, if you just sit in a waiting room, it'll show to everybody who signs into the game that there's someone waiting for you. You know what I mean? So like eventually pretty much you always get whatever game you're trying to play, which is nice. So that's been fun to play online. And then pick back up a Future Grind, which is a game I bought on sale for like $2 like a year ago, and just like randomly picked it back up. That game is great. If you're looking for a great $2 game, pick up Future Grind. And then those are pretty much the games we've been playing this week. So I'm gonna call it at that.
Very nice. Awesome. That's our episode on 2021, Nintendo's 2021. Thanks, Corduroy, who does the music for our show. If you're looking for me, Patrick, online, you can find me most places as PDYX.
Hey, I'm on Twitter, Matthew, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And if you'd like to find our show online, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter. We are at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. And then, of course, if you'd like to join us on our Facebook group, that is Switch Headz with a Z, all caps. It's like our message board of sorts on Facebook there, kind of our forums. And then we've got our Discord as well, the Switch Headz Discord, which is just a bustling hive of scum and villainy where you can discuss and play games online with some friends you've never met in person before. It's a wonderful little community. And, we had some sappy saccharine posts to the Switch Headz Discord and Facebook this past year. But, man, 2020, super clutch to have the Facebook group and the Discord. It's a very nice community we've formed over there. Very, very grateful for each and every one of you. Other than that, folks, that does it for our end of the year discussion. Thanks for doing 2 episodes in a row with no guests. How nice is this?
Yeah.
It's nice to have guests too.
Yeah.
But we'll be back next week, folks, with an all new episode. Can't wait. We got a whole slate of episodes planned for you this year. We're not going away anytime soon. We're having a great time doing the podcast, and we hope you continue listening to us throughout 2021. And hey, at the end of 2021, listen to this again and tell us everything we got wrong. Other than that, folks, we love you very much. Be safe out there. Get vaccinated. Wash your hands. We love you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.